I'm here to talk today about event triggers in Orchestrator. And some of you might be saying, but yes, we've been having event triggers available for configuration in Orchestrator for a few years now, which is true. But up to this point, it has been a bit of a disjointed experience in the sense that you would be able to create together with with the definition of your automation. You could set up a trigger in the definition of the automation, and we would call that a connected trigger. And you would be able to configure it in Orchestrator when you configure the process for that automation. But you would also be able to go to integration services and for any automation, set up a trigger on certain conditions that are not necessarily defined as part of the workflow that the developer designed. And we call this disconnected event triggers. So now we're bringing the two together in one place for ease of management and for strength of management. Because with bringing all integration service triggers or event triggers, as we call them, in one single place, that place is Orchestrator. So they will now behave and allow you to configure all the nice options that you have with all other trigger types in Orchestrator, things that you are not able to do up to this point via integration services. When we've listened, we know that it's the number one item of feedback that integration service has received in the last few months or year. And yeah, we've built it. So without further ado, let's see, I should be able to show you how this works. I do have a demo just in case, pre-recorded, but hopefully we're not going to need that. And well, yeah, no, we're not going to need that. So if you go today to integration services, and this is rolled out to most instances, and unless you're on a delayed ring, you're already seeing this. If you go today to integration service, you will see a new banner that basically tells you that you can no longer create new triggers out of integration services. Triggers that you've created up to this point will still be available to manage for a short period of time here in integration services. We estimate somewhere until July. But after that time period, they will be fully moved to Orchestrator in Orchestrator folders. So you can see the button is disabled. So if you go to Orchestrator, you will be redirected directly to the page which you are familiar with, well, somewhat familiar with, of creating a trigger in Orchestrator. And this will allow you to basically, let me create one from scratch because this will create it in the same folder that I was in integration services. And that would have been my workspace. I want to create it actually in a different folder, in a shared folder, as most production deployments will do. And I was talking about this familiar page. It's familiar in the sense that this allows you to see what you would have up to this point for all other triggers in Orchestrator. So I'm gonna select a simple process that I want to trigger based on an event that happens outside of UiPath in an external system. And now I'll also have access to all the goodies that Orchestrator offers for triggers, stuff like changing entry points, defining input arguments, choosing accounts and machines, and alerting and scheduled job execution, end of job execution if you need it, combined with the events powered by integration service. So let's say that I would want this to basically trigger based on a connection. I can choose any connection that I have permissions to view. And I would say, let's say on email received and only emails that are received in a certain folder. You're probably already familiar with this. This is the way that it also works in Studio Web. This is the way that you would configure connected event triggers up to this point also in Orchestrator, where you would be able to configure filters. And I'll just add the trigger. And yeah, be redirected. This is the trigger demo that I just created with a grid, familiar, same pattern that we use across our all our triggers. It does give you some extra information, and it allows you to filter on some extra information that's relevant in this case, like the connector or the actual connection that is being used. And yes, also familiar to all triggers, job priority. I believe that's about it. Next steps, as you might be guessing, we will also be moving from integration services, connections and connectors. So connections, we expect them that they will just move to Orchestrator as a folder level object, similar to how we have today, let's say, assets, storage buckets, or any other folder level object. And it will basically allow you to manage all your triggers, and in this case, objects related to triggers, which are connections, in a single place where you are familiar with and with tools and functionalities that you're familiar with. That's about it from my side.